Hey everyone, Ben here. Got a message the other day and thought I would share. You can take the information and then dissect it on your own, or stick around and see my thoughts. So, first off, uh, there was a shadow cast on the wall when I started, and it stuck out to me, so that's what it looked like. First thing came through was Adelphia, and then the sinister meaning of life: to be and not to be. To be still is to be great, and to be great is to be. With the wind flows the river, the mighty force to be reckoned with. Unbeknownst to us stands a man of fire and integrity, a king in the shadows. And then again, but this one's different: to be or not to be is the question. So, starting off with our picture here, we can clearly see that there's buildings. I called it the watchtower there. But these buildings also go underground. And just to start on that, we can look at the building as, if you're in the building, whether you're underground or above ground, you're still in the building. Whether it's a basement, however you can make it make sense. Adelphia, I looked that up. First thing that came up was a butterfly. And when we think of, the wings, symmetry, it's the same. As above, so below. Then we get to the sinister meaning of life. Naturally, when we think of sinister, we think of something dark or evil. But the word sinister actually is, a suggestion. It's implying, it's an assumption. So if we change the word sinister to imply or assume, the assuming meaning of life, the assumed meaning of life, to be and not to be. Obviously, this is kind of a spin-off from like Hamlet, but if we think of the word as be as live, to live and not to live. Normally it's or, which we see at the end of the message, not and. So, to live and not to live. To be still is to be great, and to be great is to be. You replace be with live again. To live still is to live great, and to live great is to live. Now, to be honest, being still was never my best suit. We like action. We like to try things, to change something if we don't like it. But at the same token, that changing is not dealing with something. And I'm not saying like dealing with it, like running away. Obviously, I guess you could see it that way. We don't want to deal with things, so we change it. We don't like the way it is, so we're going to change it. Change can be good, but change can also be neglecting something that we must see. Obviously, this is going to fit into everybody's situation differently, but to live in stillness, that's given us a chance to actually acknowledge those emotions versus distractions. So many distractions. Everything's really a distraction if we think about it. Staying active, being on our phones, work, sometimes relationships, addictions. These are all distractions. But sitting in that stillness, what are we even going to see? Can we even see what we're supposed to see? Because maybe we have problems we need to solve. Financial issues, relationship issues, housing issues, car. What am I going to eat today? There's a lot going on. How can we turn that off to be still? What do we need to see that we're not seeing? Where is our energy going? Then with the wind flows the river, the mighty force to be reckoned with. Unbeknownst to us stands a man of fire and integrity, a king in the shadows. This came to me, not really sure what avenue, but I believe it was Hates, or however you say it. H-A, I don't even know the spelling anymore. The king of the underworld, or the god of the underworld. To be honest, I'm not up on gods and deities, but they've really been coming through a lot to me, which that's a learning experience for me. But my research took me to the king or the god of the underworld, and leaving with that at the end is to be or not to be. So that's either or, because we have the word or. In the beginning we had and. To live or not to live. When I look at this, when we're here, there's definitely times when we don't want to be. And that's a way to change things, is to want to go. Not deal with things, not deal with our problems, whether we created them or someone else created them, or our environment, or the world in general, the energy. We don't want to deal with it, so let's just cop out. When we're looking at the watchtower, the drawing, as above, so below, a lot of people think it's just the end, that it's over. We don't have to deal with anything anymore. It's not really the case. You could look at it in a negative aspect, or you could look at it in a different plane or a realm of existence. You know, I'm not saying you can't change things, but you can. But by looking at it, we may not have to change anything at all, because we couldn't see the direction or the way to make something better. And instead, our change, our 3D, our change in our physical environment, we see as the only way. That's not really always the case, because we're probably missing something. And that issue may just lie with us, and it's not knocking us that we're to blame. It's more or less that we're not seeing something, a wound of some sort, or a trauma that is creating this more for us than we really know. And all we know is what we've experienced, or what people tell us to do. So we think that's the only way. And it's advertised that that's the only way. But there is more. And that can only be found in stillness. Which goes back to that saying of, to live still is to be great. And to be great is to be, which is to live. But there's so much more of a message here that is, you know, it's however you want to look at it. Do we want to look at it as right now in this experience? Or that the idea is that I don't have enough time here, and that I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. And that time is running out. And when it's over, it's over. But it's not. You know? And the punishment, if we've done something wrong, is really on us. Not like shame on you, but it's not someone punishing us in the way that we may see it here in the 3D. It's our doing, and it's our way to get out of it. I shouldn't say it that way. It's our way to experience karma, if you will. You know, how are you going to know how this feels if I was the, you know, inflictor? Now I got to be the recipient. That kind of thing. You know, you don't know what it feels like until it's done to you. That's kind of how I see it. I do. You know, if I've done something, now I'll be the victim next time. I do see it that way. How would you know? How would you know how it feels? But, again, like I said, I'm not very up on the gods or the deities, so I can't really speak much on that more. But this is what came through, and the moral can go either way. As I said, do you want to focus on now? Is all of our energy going on the material aspect? Like, honestly, I think about that, and sometimes on my feed, I guess I'd call it the world pops up, and looking at what people praise is like so much material, or you know, money, jobs, house, cars, or women, or I guess, you know, boys for, or men for women, dating, a relationship, a perfect life. You know, this is what's out there. But is that what you want? Is that what you need? Probably not. What's advertised is probably not what any of us needs, but it keeps things moving for other folks. It employs them. Are we seeking attention? A lot of that is a grab out of attention. That stuff, like all that stuff that pops up, like I start to feel sick. And it's not because I can't handle it. It's like, wow, that's the world I don't want to live in. I don't want to experience that. I wonder what goes through their head all day compared to my head, because it's not that kind of stuff. You know, there's so a difference. And for me to be talking about this, like, people just check out so quickly. This is deep. I like deep. I like reason. Of course, we all like answers, but that's also a way of control. If we know what's coming or how to dodge something, that makes us feel safe. Safe is control led by fear, which I'm guilty of. We all are. We're human, you know? But does it control us? Does it lead us? Sometimes more than not. But just by being still, just by living, accepting the ups and downs of life, getting through it, knowing you're going to get through it, and that we're going to be okay, and that we're protected in a way that can't be explained. You know, as above, so below. Of course, it takes a lot of faith and trust, but it also takes a part on you and me accepting and allowing that we are going to be taken care of. We're going to be protected because it's inside of us. We're believing it. If we think we're going to fail, we're going to inevitably create that. It's all where our energy goes. Where your attention goes, energy flows, you know. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Feel free to chime in. I'm sure I missed a lot of important parts. Everybody sees things differently, and maybe it'll help somebody out by sharing. So with that, have a great day. See ya.